You all know I hate Webtoon for a multitude of reasons, but one reason I rarely, if not ever, hear people talk about is how Webtoon breeds an impossible standard of practice for their artists and readers that leads the readers to bombard and harass the creators of said comics. While this doesn't seem like a huge deal to some people, allow me to elaborate on how Webtoon has made a breeding ground for obscene and inappropriate comics as well as behavior from everyone involved. If you don't use Webtoon or you're rarely on the site, allow me to elaborate. Webtoon is a comic posting platform that is separated into two sections, Canvas and Original. Canvas being where someone like you or me can post our own work for free, and Original being where artists get paid by Webtoon and their work is more heavily promoted by Webtoon. In order to truly succeed as an artist on Webtoon, you have to post longer chapters at the very least once a week, otherwise you basically have no hope of gaining a following, getting picked up as an original by Webtoon, or your slow and steady work ethic gets you harassed and bombarded by your very viewers. A lot of people know and understand that any form of entertainment takes time to make, and comics especially are just one of the many different forms of entertainment that does take time. Which is why it's so frustrating that Webtoon, being the leading name on online comic entertainment, set a near impossible industry standard for the entire community to have to abide by. Not only the community that is on Webtoon, but also those who are on other comic posting sites. Don't get me wrong, the comic industry has always been fast-paced with putting comics out, but there are many differences between professionally having your comics printed and Webtoon. The first one being that you are getting paid in a professional setting. If you work for yourself on Canvas Webtoon, you are not getting paid unless you have a link for your readers to go to, like Venmo or Patreon. The second difference being that in a professional setting, you usually have a team that works with you instead of you having to be a one-man show. And one of the biggest differences between the two is that in a professional setting, you are going to have more time than Webtoon to create. From what I could find from the very beginning of the golden age of comics through the present, comics usually tend to be released on a monthly basis. Now with that and the fact that you have a team on top of actually getting paid is a far cry with how far we've fallen as individual artists. I have seen firsthand how the industry standard Webtoon has created beats down and discourages the very artists they said they were there to help. Since Webtoon does nothing to moderate comments, comics, spam, or anything harmful to its readers or creators, it's become a very lawless land. While no one is twisting your arm telling you to keep drawing for free to meet the deadline you set for yourself, artists who start their work being very hopeful to share their story with others can quickly fall prey to the habits Webtoon established. The biggest piece of advice I hear any and everyone talk about when you first start posting to Webtoon is to finish your first 3 chapters first so that there is a buffer in case you get busy, sick, hurt, or just plain tired. Sadly enough, I still give this advice because if you really do want to publish on Webtoon, gain traction and audience among other things, you need to put your best foot forward and give yourself buffer time. Not only do you need to give yourself buffer time, but you need to have longer episodes as well, otherwise your audience loses interest as quickly as the chapter ends. So usually creators are left with an ultimatum. Have short chapters but weekly updates, or have longer chapters with bi-weekly to monthly updates. Personally, when I was posting my comic, I chose short chapters with weekly updates, and I really believe it hurt my comic being promoted. It's hard for readers to be engaged in a chapter unless they have time to be engaged. But if you choose the other option, many small artists and even larger ones end up getting harassed by readers for not posting fast enough for them. Criticism in this case is not what I mean. I'm referencing readers commenting multiple times asking for longer chapters, asking when an artist will come back, as well as disregarding a comic schedule set by the creator, and rather begging for more updates. And while it's great to have people wanting to read your comic and engaging in your work, the amount of demanding and entitlement that sometimes comes off from readers can be a lot to handle for artists on top of what they already handle from Webtoon already. And this wouldn't be a huge issue in the community had Webtoon not establish that as the standard practice of their business. Back when I first joined Webtoon, there was a lot more attention to the moderation of comments, comics, and spam. And as I have grown with the app and firsthand seen the changes they have made, it's clear they did this purposefully. Before there was such a harsh separation between artists, it was less of an issue for artists to be asked to keep working and drawing for the entertainment of others. Because at this time, all of Webtoon's comics were seen as equal. But with more and more comics getting picked up by Webtoon and allocating a few people to help the once individual artists, it's become very common for chapters to be posted weekly. I understand it's a strong accusation to say that Webtoon purposefully established a harsh, near impossible standard of practice, but the more people that visit the site, the more money they make. A lot of media companies do this, but in different ways. Some try to glue you to the screen, others make you check in frequently, there are notifications on your phone. It's very common in this day and age to constantly be checking whatever app you're using. Even my shitty Sudoku app wants me to play daily and see the ads they're constantly pushing at me. So while readers might be accustomed to the instant gratification of getting the media they want on most other platforms exactly when they want it, they expect the same level of instant gratification from Webtoon creators. I used to read a comic called Humor Me a few years back. It was a while ago, and the artist had posted multiple times that people needed to stop asking them when to post so often, as they were only working part-time on the comic at the moment and had an actual job that was paying the bills that was more demanding of their attention. It's always frustrating to hear, since when bigger and more prominent artists take breaks on the same platform, they tend to get a lot more love and praise for needing rest, whereas the smaller artist does not get that same privilege, at least until the readers get sick of waiting, and then the comments start rolling in even for the bigger creators. Because there seems to be a visible distance between original and canvas creators, this also leads artists to sacrifice their creative freedoms for the sake of their art actually getting noticed, like their more famous predecessors. You might notice while browsing the site that there seems to be a lot of focus pointed towards romance comics. Not only romance comics, but blatantly inappropriate romance comics that directly violate Webtoon's terms of service. Their own terms of service that directly state that content that contains nudity or is intended to be sexually gratifying is not allowed. This includes, but is not limited to, full and partial nudity as well as graphic depictions of sexual acts. While it's easy for these canvas comics to fly under the radar, it becomes confusing when Webtoon themselves are directly promoting comics that violate their own terms of service. A few of these comics that come to my mind are harem comics. Harems are acts that are considered to be sexual, or at the very least a glorified brothel. So why does Webtoon parade these comics around for everyone to read or at least see, while comics that follow the rules go unnoticed? The main reason is that they become widely popular by the pre-teen, mostly female user base Webtoon has specifically acquired over the past 9 years it has been in the USA. Unfortunately, they can break their own rules when it means Webtoon can make more money and gain more popularity. So where exactly does this leave creators? Well, since Webtoon has clearly established for everyone to see that if your comic is popular enough to bring in viewers, then they'll turn a blind eye. Since they promote romance that breaks TOS, it leaves artists with one of two options to gain notoriety and get their art the attention they want it to have. Keep doing what they're doing, posting the story they've dreamed of telling, with only hopes of gaining traction with an audience, or throw away any type of artistic integrity they have and pander to what they know has been advertised to them as successful, and just draw the softcore romance porn that will gain traction. This isn't just a theory, this is what is all over Webtoon, and Webtoon won't do much about it since this is what they've been training creators to create. This is what they've been training audiences to look for, since it's a majority of what you'll find on the site. Romance sells. Romance brings in viewers. Why would Webtoon change what they've created knowing they are now more popular than ever? Webtoon's standard of practice has told creators to sign themselves over, since this will get them noticed. This will make them money, and it's disgusting. Let me be very clear. Drawing NSFW is not wrong or disgraceful as a creator. Webtoon training creators to do it in the name of popularity is. You have to remember Webtoon's main audience are preteen girls. Rather than following their own TOS, they choose to neglect their readers and creators with no end in sight. Drawing NSFW for underage users should never have become an industry normality, but this is what Webtoon promotes. Not art, not storytelling, and certainly not a safe community for everyone using the site. While you could expect Webtoon to do anything to be proactive in protecting the creators they profit off of, they don't. In fact, Webtoon has in the past publicly told the world and its creators what they truly think of them, by telling each of the artists that their hard work is only equated to a fun side hustle. Like I always say, companies do not care about you no matter what you do for them, how long you've used or promoted what they have to offer, or how much time and money you've spent on them. They don't care about you as long as they get what they think they deserve out of you. All of this to say, Webtoon is the main place creators and readers go to, and they have and will continue to promote a toxic industry standard that is practically impossible for creators to follow, unless the only thing they do all day is work. Artists should be allowed to work and share their stories without constantly having to worry about a deadline, harassment, and spam, and if the place they work for actually cares about them. The creators that work on and with Webtoon should not be having to fight for relevance against more popular comics that violate TOS while they have been following the rules since day one. Creators just want a safe space for their comics and community, and since Webtoon is the leading name constantly promoting a toxic standard of practice, you will unfortunately be hard-pressed to find another site as big or popular as Webtoon that doesn't also follow along with what Webtoon does as a business. Unfortunately, this leaves small creators and audiences wondering what the alternative can be, and unfortunately, there aren't many other options out there. Aside from posting on alternative sites that are going to have the same, if not other problems, there aren't many alternatives. All you can do as an artist or viewer is try your best. Don't get taken advantage of by bigger and more powerful companies, and focus on what made you love comics in the first place. Whether the fact that they make you seem heard, or the fact that you just love to tell stories and share your art. It's hard to not be discouraged when there seems to be a world of weight stacked against you, and all I can say is try. Try your best to be the creator you have always wanted to be.